According to a study done by the National Geographic, this is what the average American is expected to look like in the future, as of the year 2050.
Trump and other Republicans said, "Not on my watch. Not on my watch."
Not on my watch. Not on my watch.
I am a professional giving my professional opinion in a casual setting. Do not cancel me.
Welcome to our deep dive into the complex and often troubling topic of racial whitening, a phenomenon that has shaped societies across the globe, particularly in Brazil and the United States. Today, we will explore the historical context of racial whitening, its implications in various countries, and how current political climates in the United States may be steering the nation toward a similar trajectory. Understanding racial whitening. Racial whitening, or branqueamento in Brazil and blanqueamiento in Spanish-speaking countries, refers to the social, political, and economic practices aimed at improving a population's racial composition towards a perceived ideal of whiteness. This ideology emerged from colonial legacies and has been used to justify policies that promote European immigration and discourage the visibility of non-white identities. Historical context in Brazil. Brazil's history of racial whitening began in earnest after the abolition of slavery in 1888, when the country sought to whiten its predominantly black and mixed-race population. Fun fact, Brazil has the highest population of people of African descent outside of Africa, having the world's largest African diaspora, with the United States being second, followed by Colombia and Haiti. Now, the Brazilian government actively encouraged European immigration, believing that mixing with white Europeans would dilute the African heritage of the population. This was part of a broader national policy aimed at modernizing Brazil and aligning it more closely with European nations. The concept of racial democracy. Brazil promoted the idea of a racial democracy, suggesting that racial discrimination was minimal compared to other societies. This narrative masked the systemic inequalities that persisted as the influx of European immigrants was often prioritized over the rights and recognition of Afro-Brazilians and indigenous peoples. Scientific racism. The late 19th and early 20th centuries were marked by scientific racism, which viewed non-white populations as inferior. This ideology justified the exclusion of non-white immigrants and reinforced the belief that a whiter population was essential for national progress and development. And as one could imagine, this had dangerous effects of discrimination. It sowed seeds of prejudice, incited violence, and justified overt racism, which not only caused generational setbacks and traumas, but also influenced other countries. Racial whitening in other countries. Similar practices of racial whitening have been observed in various Latin American countries, where policies aimed at promoting European immigration were seen as a means to achieve national modernization. In countries like Argentina and Cuba, blanqueamiento was also linked to national identity and the construction of a homogeneous society that emulated European ideals. The United States, a parallel path. As we examine the current political climate in the United States, it becomes evident that the country may be on a path that mirrors the historical experiences of Brazil and other countries. Several factors contribute to this potential trajectory. So you guys were about to let me go on and not give a shout out to our sponsors? I see how it is. Well, in order to keep the lights on and for us to continue improving the quality of these deep dives and these videos, please support our sponsors. I would never have you guys support anything that I didn't support myself. So please look into Flè Solèy. That is all that I have on my lovely mug right now. You see it? You see it? Skincare and self-care is the best care, and you can't get better self-care than Flè Solèy, which translates to sunflower. It's an all-natural luxury handcrafted skincare collection created by two Haitian American doctors who are also sisters and who make the best quality products under the sun. Right now I have on their facial serums, which is making me glow and shine naturally, and it basically has helped with my acne. It's also helped clear any breakouts and scarring that I had, and I just shine beautifully. I mean, look at me. Look at this face. And can't forget Big Wig Brand. Look into their clothes if you're trying to look on point this year and start your new year off right. Get into Big Wig, and you'll stand out in a crowd, and who doesn't want that attention? So Big Wig Brand and Flè Solèy, or Flè Solèy and Big Wig Brand. And now that our sponsored content is completed and you've checked out their social medias and checked out their websites, which are linked below, let's get back to our deep dives. Roe v. Wade and reproductive rights. The recent overturning of Roe v. Wade has significant implications for racial dynamics in the United States. The restriction of reproductive rights disproportionately affects women of color, who often face greater barriers to accessing healthcare. This can lead to a decline in birth rates among non-white populations and promotes increasing birth rates for white populations, potentially contributing to a demographic shift that favors a whiter population over time. Immigration hostility. The current political climate has seen a rise in anti-immigrant sentiment, particularly targeting individuals from Latin America, Africa, and the Middle East. Policies that restrict immigration not only limit the influx of diverse populations, but also reinforce the notion that a whiter America is preferable. This hostility can perpetuate a cycle of exclusion and marginalization, further entrenching racial hierarchies. Removal of diversity, equity, and inclusion protections. Efforts to dismantle diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives in various sectors, including education and employment, threaten to erase the progress made toward racial equity. These protections are crucial for ensuring that marginalized communities have access to opportunities and representation. The removal of such measures can lead to a society where whiteness is not only normalized, but celebrated, while non-white identities are systematically devalued and erased. Long-term implications. The convergence of these factors suggests a troubling future for racial dynamics in the United States. As policies continue to favor whiteness and marginalize non-white populations, the country risks repeating the historical mistakes of nations like Brazil. The long-term implications could include, but are by no means limited to, erosion of multiculturalism. A shift towards a predominantly white society undermines the rich tapestry of cultures that have historically defined the United States. Increased racial tensions. As racial disparities widen, social unrest and conflict may become more prevalent, echoing the struggles faced in Brazil and other countries with similar histories. Loss of identity. The push for racial whitening can lead to the erasure of non-white identities, creating a homogenized society that lacks the diversity that has historically fueled innovation and progress in this country. Conclusion. In conclusion, the historical context of racial whitening in Brazil and its implications for the United States reveals a complex interplay of social, political, and economic factors. As we navigate the current political landscape, it is essential to recognize the potential consequences of policies that promote whiteness at the expense of diversity and inclusion. Understanding these dynamics is crucial for fostering a more equitable society that values all identities and experiences. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into racial whitening. If you found this discussion enlightening, please like, share, and subscribe for more content on important issues and deeper dives into unique topics that will stimulate your mind and intrigue your soul. Stay tuned and don't miss out. Bye.